You mentioned A. Philip Randolph, so I want to talk about a moment, or you to talk about a moment when A. Philip Randolph convinces you to change the remarks you had planned to say at the March on Washington. You had planned to say things that the Kennedy administration didn't want said. And Mr. Randolph intervened and asked if you would change. Describe that to us.
Well, as you well know, during those days leading up to the March on Washington, we all had to prepare a speech. And we had a speech like all the other leaders. The night before the March on Washington, I had been informed by Bayard Rustin, Bayard Rustin, who was the deputy director of the March, really assistant to A. Phil Randolph, who said that some people had some problem with my speech, the text of the speech. And there was a meeting in a room at this hotel, and we ought to come down and see what we could do. And there was things that people didn't like in the speech.
Who was in the meeting?
Well, there was a representative from the NAACP, the Urban League, UAW. I think Walter Reuther himself was there. Eugene Carson Blake from the National Council of Churches, someone representing the American Jewish Congress, the American Catholic Conference. There was 10 conveners of the March on Washington, and I think Walter Fauntroy could have been in the meeting for Dr. King and SCLC. And that was part of the speech where I said, in good conscience, we could not support the administration proposed civil rights bill, for it was too little and too late. And it went on down, saying there's not anything in the bill to protect old women and young children involved in peaceful, nonviolent demonstrations, stuff like that. And then another part of the speech, I said, the party of Kennedy is the party of Eastland. The party of Rockefeller, the party of Javits, is the party of Goldwater. Where's our party? And then I said, listen, Mr. President, listen, members of Congress, you want to take the revolution out of the streets and put it in the courts. And then went on down and said the masses are restless and we would create our own party. But then at the latter part of the speech, near the end of the speech, it was play on words. Some people call it rhetoric. I said, if we do not see meaningful progress here today, the day may come when we will not confine our marching on Washington, but we may be forced to march to the South the way Sherman did, nonviolently. And people thought that was inflammatory. But even before I got to that point, there was one part of the speech where I said, the black masses are restless. We're involved in a serious revolution. There were people who objected to the use of the phrase black masses and use of the word revolution. A. Philip Randolph came to my rescue. And he said in this baritone voice, there's nothing wrong with the use of black masses. I use it myself sometimes. There's nothing wrong with the use of the word revolution. I use it myself sometimes. But they wanted me to change the phrase related to Sherman. So for the most part, we made those other changes, but we kept the reference to Sherman there. And we got to the march the next day, just before the march was supposed to get underway, the program. I believe you had made a copy of this.
Yes, I had a copy of the original speech.
Available to the press. And people saw it, and other people saw it. And the people convening the march, they've seen it. And they were still having problems. And A. Philip Randolph, Roy Wilkins, Martin Luther King Jr., Jim Foreman, our Jim Foreman, Executive Secretary of SNCC, and I think Cortland Cox and others, we gathered to the side of Lincoln. I guess that would have been the right side of the statue of Mr. Lincoln. And Foreman had a portable typewriter, and Mr. Randolph said, John, we come this far, let's stay together. For the sake of staying together, for the sake of unity, can we change these words? Can we delete it? And so we dropped a reference to Mr. Sherman and sort of said, if we do not see meaningful progress here today, we will march through certain cities.
And that was it. Was that a tough decision for you?
It was tough, and at the time I had a sort of a sense of righteousness, indignation, but I got over it.
It was hard to say no to Mr.
It was
Randolph.
very hard.